Vice presidential candidate Luis Guillermo Murillo is visiting the island, and in an interview he expressed which are the problems that most afflict the department.
Among the agenda of the vice presidential candidate was to talk to the local media of the islands, visit some educational institutions, and talk to merchants and fishermen. Murillo was emphatic that his candidacy is committed to work for and with the islands in case he is elected on May 29th as vice president.
We must propose a development model for the island that is based on its natural assets, that its central axis would be the Sea Flower Biosphere Reserve and the work with fishermen, the work offering new products of nature tourism, and the goal is to diversify the economy.
The vice presidential candidate was emphatic that the goal is for the department to be a model of sustainable development, not only for Colombia, but for the hemisphere. The vice presidential candidate was emphatic that the goal is for the department to be a model of sustainable development, not only for Colombia, but for the hemisphere. He also stated that among his main concerns on the island, besides insecurity, are education and the high cost of living.
San Andres is one of the most insecure municipalities in the country. It is among the 100 most insecure, and that is unacceptable. There was also much talk about the lack of employment opportunities, more support for the popular economy associated with tourism, problems related to the cost of energy and water desalination.
Luis Guillermo Murillo also referred to the fact that water is supposedly extracted from the aquifers on the hill sector to supply hotels.
Teleislas News obtained the documents where the Second Municipal Civil Court accepts the action of protection against the mayor of Providencia.
The Second Municipal Civil Court admitted this April 1st the action for protection filed by the Citizen Oversight for the specific plan for reconstruction and attention to the disaster situation of the Archipelago Department of San Andres, Old Providence, and Santa Catalina, and Jorge Luis Ben Jimenez against the Mayor's Office of Providence. At the same time, the judge notified the Mayor of Providence, Jorge Norberto Gary Hooker, or whoever takes his office, to issue a report on the facts that support the constitutional action. Likewise, they will be able to provide the documents and anticipated evidence in their possession, and they will be allowed to request the evidence they intend to assert. It should be noted that this action was filed after delays in the reconstruction of the island of Providence, which was affected by 98% of its infrastructure in 2020 after the passage of Hurricane Iota.
And regarding the security situation in the islands, the Minister of Defense will arrive in the next few days with the purpose of meeting with all departmental security authorities.
In our broadcast of March 31st, Teleislas News announced that the Minister of Defense, Diego Molano, will visit the archipelago in April. With regard to this issue, the representative Elizabeth J. Pang gave details of what the visit of the minister will consist of.
Bueno, el ministro ha sido muy claro con nosotros.
We also made an approach with the Minister of Defense, Diego Molano, to see how we can coordinate all those issues that have to do with security. We plan with the minister to make a disarmament plan, but for this, there should be some clear offerings for our youth. The idea is that we can train and finance young people. We need that the different agencies such as the Family Welfare Institute and the SENA and each one of these institutions of social development become part of this big table. The minister is planning to do it after Easter. He has been very clear he expects to be in San Andres before the end of this month with a view to make a call to all the entities that have to ensure the security that the inhabitants of the island and tourism also deserve, in which all instances such as community action boards and all entities that have to do with tourism, economic and cultural development of our archipelago will be invited.
The representative indicated that the visit of the Ministry of Defense will seek to establish a roundtable discussion with all the authorities of the archipelago to analyze the security situation in the island.
And in other news, a few days before the start of the Easter week, we spoke with the Departmental Secretary of Tourism to find out how they are preparing for this new tourist season.
San Andres is preparing for the Holy Week. into account that during this date, the tourism of the island continues to reactivate in a positive way. That is why the Departmental Secretary of Tourism tells us how they are preparing for this date.
Recently, we were able to hold the Tourist Safety Council in San Andres with the participation of our Vice Minister of Tourism, the Colonel, the Mayor of the Police, and different entities where we plan strategies so that we can have a tourist week for Easter in the best way and have measures to prevent accidents or any unfortunate event in the exercise of tourism.
Let's remember that Holy Week for this year 2022 will be between the 10th and the 16th of April. For this same day, last year the department received more than 3,000 tourists.
And tomorrow, Tuesday, April 5th, the Governor's Office will hold a dialogue and community security roundtable with members of the population and the administration. People will be able to follow it on Facebook Live, which will take place from the page of the local government. Thus, they will be able to interact with the decisions that will be taken during the session led by the Governor Everett Hawkins Green, accompanied by his cabinet, the law enforcement authority, and representatives of the Rizal people and, in general, the Rizal population. The meeting will start at 8 a.m. Boosting governance, regional autonomy, and decentralization were the main proposals presented at the Governor's Summit convened by the National Federation of Departments.
This meeting in Sucre was called the Regional Proposal for the Development and Growth. In this meeting, the governor of each department belonging to the Federation met around the strengthening of governance and regional autonomy in Colombia. In this important scenario, the initiative resulting from the more than 11 technical roundtables convened by the FND were presented in a participatory exercise that sought to bring down to earth the needs and challenges of the territory and translate them into clear, current, and achievable proposal to be included in the new legislative and central government roadmap for the next 4 years. The executive director of the Federation stated that Colombia is going through an important moment in this history, politically and socially. So the role of the departmental government cannot be other than to contribute to the construction of the country we want, promoting the work already done and promoting reforms that respond to the reality and regions and the needs of the community. For this reason, the main objective of the summit was to formally present the proposal that the territories have formulated for the progress and development of Colombians through the national territory. This path to decentralization has been supported by the national government through the Ministry of Interior, which from the legislative agenda promote and push through 16 laws and 2 legislative acts for the benefit of the departments, including the new departmental regime, the Bogota-Cundinamarca Metropolitan Region, the reform of the general royalty system, 2 biannual royalties budget laws, the financing law, among other initiatives.
Congressman Elizabeth J. Pan and Jorge Mendez referred to the decision to be taken this month by the International Court of Justice regarding the litigation between the Central American country of Nicaragua and Colombia.
Next April 21st, the International Court of Justice will inform his decision regarding the ruling filed by Nicaragua against Colombia for alleged violation of rights in maritime areas of the Caribbean Sea in 2013. The representative of the archipelago met with members of the Rizal team who were part of the country's defense process.
Last weekend, we had the opportunity to meet with the Rizal team, who have been working hard on the resolution of the process that takes place between Colombia and Nicaragua. We analyzed precisely what would be the scope or what could be the ruling that is given next April 21st, and which would be the impact that it would have on the department. That would be the threats or opportunity that could be presented in front of this. And my position is that we must be optimistic about the great work done by the Rizal team led by Kent Francis, Jesse, Mark Taylor, and Richard Francis, for those professionals who know the history of the islands and know the legacy of the sea.
House Representative Elizabeth J. Pan also met with members of the Rizal team to analyze possible seniors for the April 21st decision and indicated that the department should begin to consider diplomatic and economic relations with Nicaragua.
While we wait for the ruling, we could advance things, such as what is going to happen with ethnic rights, the biosphere reserve. We're insisting that it should become a transnational reserve because we know that several countries are usufructing from there, and that is one of our food reservoirs. What are we going to do so that the ecosystems and the species that circulate there do not end? And two, there is the whole border and maritime issue, and another issue is that we have to reach agreements with Nicaragua on trade.
The decision of the judge will be known this April 21st, 2022 at Peace Palace in The Hague at 10 a.m. Dutch time, 3 a.m. Colombian time. The Colombian Foreign Ministry informed that until the ruling is known, the country's legal team will not comment on this matter.
And now we continue with Millicent O'Neill and all the news of the municipality of Old Providence and Santa Catalina.
Good evening to all our viewers. This is the most relevant information from Old Providence and Catalina. In recent days, there has been an increase in the stealing of materials and work tools in different projects and construction works.
In recent days, the municipality has seen an increase in the theft activities. Several infrastructure works or houses under reconstruction has suffered due to this situation, including the Providencia Consortium that is rebuilding the fire station in Martin. There were victims this weekend.
They stole our minor equipment and the welding equipment. Thank God we have already finished the metal structure. Otherwise, they would have left us affected. And previously, there was another robbery. We are in charge of 4 construction sites. There had been other robberies at the police headquarters. They had also stolen minor equipment there. They had stolen polishing machines, drills, cutters, etc.
Likewise, during the past week, workers who were installing high-tension cables towards the Buena Vista Hill in camp reported the theft of a roll of copper wire valued at around 20 million pesos. They reported that during the weekend they were able to recover the coil of wire which was hidden near the place where it had been stolen. On the other hand, one of the affected contractors decided to give a statement since he had been threatened after reporting to police the loss of construction materials at 3 work sites in the section of mountain. These include 20 sheets of plywood, 80 bags of cement, and 30 half-inch rebar rods. For the time being, the police authorities are requesting that these consortiums also increase their security scheme by hiring private security guards to help protect materials.
On the other hand, the community has begun their discontent after the announcement of the closure of Edan, which apparently will leave several people without housing.
Several people who have problems with the reconstruction of their homes have expressed their dissatisfaction since some apparently were removed from the list. Some point directly to the Secretary of Government as the responsible one.
Take off the feed, exclude it, and says that it was in ruin. I don't understand why it was in ruin. The person was living in it so much years, a board house. The flooring was board. The last thing the solar them do was a month back, then go and take up the flooring because they say it was expected to build the house pretty soon.
Others mentioned that people who didn't have a house ended up with one, and others who had their houses were left without.
They sent me to look for some evidence. Look at the evidence that I have. A book of evidence that my house exists. We are going to do. They need to have more empathy. They took me down from Edan without any reason. The case is in the Attorney General's office, and they are not able to answer the Attorney General why they took me down from Edan. It is an injustice against me and a political persecution.
Some have been trying for months to recover their FID, but yesterday it was announced that they only have 3 more days to resolve the situation.
Mountain, God, he they say he's there when you go there, come here, and as we come here in pension, he's not here also. Then call him on his phone, he don't answer his phone. He hiding his face, he not helping people them. So what we must do, and you have some people you can't say nothing because they get offended. They hiding everything that they do. This money will come here is for we Providence people.
Teleislas to contact the Secretary of Government to clarify the situation of the exclusion of the figures. However, the closing of this broadcast, he could not be connected. The phones are kept open awaiting for his pronouncement.
And this past weekend, the plastic wood that will be used to complete the construction works on the tour of the Lovers Lane Bridge arrived to the municipality. This will resume foot traffic between the two islands. This work is scheduled to begin in the next few days. On the other hand, work has already begun on the construction of the platform next to the bridge. And this is all we have for tonight for this section of Providence and Catlina. Continue San Andres with more Teleislas News. Good night.